Hello, and welcome to the self-reflection of my literature progression over the span of my lifetime. As a young child, I mainly read the Bible and a book called Runaway Bunny by Margaret Wise Brown. My mother would only let me read it once a week because I had memorized every word of the book, so when it came to reading it at night, I spent more time puffing my chest and rattling off sentences from the book than actually reading it and understanding the story. Needless to say, I was less interested in knowing what the words meant than knowing what the words were, period. Coming from a very religious household, God was always the number one priority in our lives, and although I always remember wanting to question the Bible more than wanting to comprehend it. Similar to Runaway Bunny, I had a skewed outlook on religion. I always remember interpreting the story of the prodigal son and the runaway bunny as God or parents being too soft on their children. That you could be a terrible child and still be loved and forgiven by God or your parents. This bothered me because I didn't like how the stories handled the situations. I always remember looking at the older brother from the prodigal son or the man Job from the land of Uz and how they got the short end of the stick even though they had been loyal from the very beginning. Eventually I started to become discouraged from reading the Bible and reading period, and I stopped altogether unless I had to read for school. My next stride in literacy was football. And yes, there's more to football than a bunch of meatheads headbutting each other trying to get concussions. I love to focus on play designs and schemes. It was the first thing I ever became passionate about, and it also introduced me to video games. I remember playing Madden and creating playbooks to test out the plays to see if they would really work in the game. It really helped improve my critical thinking, as I had to create specific plays to beat schemes that my opponents tried to use. I remember trying to discuss with my parents what trips right, backside, split screen left was, or what a cover 3 defense did, but they always viewed it as me wasting my time with games and actually progressing my learning ability. Other than football, my literacy stagnated. I remember reading books like War and Peace as a freshman in high school, despite my parents, even though I knew diddly squat of the French invasion of Russia in the 1800s. It wasn't until I stumbled across manga and anime in college that I started taking literature seriously again. I originally wasn't even an English major. I set out to be a computer science major because I was good at math and computers and wanted to find a steady job and make good money. I always judged Japanese literacy poorly, thinking it was just about over-sexualizing teens while screaming words in Japanese, killing some ugly slug monster. And yes, those themes do exist, which is why we have stereotypes in the first place, but not all Japanese literature was that cut and dry. I remember stumbling across a show called Naruto. At first it looked like a derpy show made for kids, but as I continued to watch it or read it, I realized how diverse the show was. It had complex characters with unique backstories and brought in adult themes that you wouldn't expect for a kid's show. Not to mention a brilliant crafted fabula. Think of the fabula for Conviction, just 5 times more complicated. Without gushing too much, I would say it ended up changing my life forever. I realized that I wanted to become a writer and I wanted to read similar stories that bring complex narratives to the table. So, after getting my degree in computer science, I came here to Ball State to become a creative writing major. Here I stand 22 years in the making, trying to accomplish a goal I never would have dreamed of having 2.5 years ago.